necessitated. You need a guide to show you how we get through a situation like this, to give you resources and to help you get out of the emotional pea soup fog of dealing with a crisis and the resulting fallout. I've been there, and I'm here to help you. Out of the fog. If you weren't emotionally bound up in your situation, you would have more clarity. You would be able to see your best options for dealing with whatever comes up. If the version of yourself who has already walked through this rock bottom and come out the other end could go back in time and give you, the you right now, some advice, what would she say? Would she tell you to slow down, to stop rushing, that you don't have to have all the answers today? Would the future you recommend not making any major decisions without reviewing them first, particularly while you're still in the fog? Would she tell you that normal is going to look different for a while, but that you will feel normal again? In case we haven't invented time travel by the time you read this book, I'm here to tell you all of the above. I developed the Boots formula to help you learn to make choices, have a life shift, and make great things happen based on your individual values and best life vision. A change is going to happen, and it's worth it. There's a stage where it feels like everyone in your life is picking at you. Life itself may seem like it's trying its best to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. All you hear is, "That's a stupid idea," and "That's never going to work," and "Who do you think you are?" One of the hardest things for people to do is to realign and possibly walk away from anything and anyone that conflicts with their value systems. But you are going to discover that power within yourself. Through the activities and examples in this book, you will discover your true north and will be able to easily do what is needed to move forward with your life. Anything that hurts you, that doesn't resonate for you, that fights against what you want and believe in, you are going to give it the boot. Once you have turned your rock bottom moment into a positive, beautiful life shift, you can live your life on your terms. Your life will probably look different, but you get to design it this time. You are taking your life back, and you are in charge, not anybody else. Sooner than you can imagine, you'll be in the career of your dreams or the relationship you always wanted. Because you are going to learn to develop healthy boundaries. Because you are going to do things differently along the way from here to there. You will begin to attract the people, the job, the place to live, all of the opportunities that align with who you are, your essence, your truth, not anybody else's or even society's expectations of the way you're supposed to be. Once you have accepted that you are in charge of living your life and you begin to embody living your truth, people are going to see you. They're going to be inspired by you. Then you're going to hear, "Hey, can you show me how you did that? I want to do it too." When you assess your peer group and up-level according to your life purpose and vision, and once you have created a life shift for yourself, whatever that looks like, your life is not just full, it's fulfilled. Not only do you get more and better sleep, you wake up feeling rested and happy. You know that you're doing what you need to do. Yes, sometimes your heart will call you to leave certain friends or family members in order to find a more aligned peer group. From what I've seen, however, the ones who leave always return to lead their family and friends to success. Because your friends are more in alignment with your beliefs and value system, they support you while also pushing you toward your personal best. Life still involves work, but as a whole, it feels far more effortless. But you don't have to wait for the right person, right job, or right investment opportunity to show up. You can start living now so that every moment as you go forward through the process of recovering from rock bottom and redesigning your life is one more step to being the best version of you, the one who came. All right, if you are looking to reinvent life on your terms, if you are grieving, experiencing financial turmoil, career shifts, relationship problems, parenting, elder care, victims of abuse, breaking free from an addiction, or seeking an overall business and lifestyle redesign, then you may need a reboot. Is not
fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's
All right, welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest, Michael Rowell. Michael has been leading individuals, groups, and organizations in a range of industries and environments for over 25 years. He holds a Master of Leadership degree from the University of New England and is passionate about seeing people's leadership capacity grow and their level of influence develop. He's a strong believer in the power of leadership and positivity to positively impact individuals, families, organizations, and community. He is highly effective at communicating proven practical leadership concepts. All right, welcome to the show, Michael.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, and I start off this show. This show actually started based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action.
Great.
And I wrote it right before the pandemic started, and we have been in situations that we could not even fathom in the end of 2019. Going into the beginning of 2020. So here we are, and I always like to start with asking if you have a story you can share with the audience about a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation and how you got back on track.
Sure. Well, I think just coming off a recent example of finishing and releasing my book, it was I was really struck by how the power of really wanting to do something and really having a passion and a goal to achieve something or get something over the line, but the incredible stress and frustration that I experienced when I wasn't empowered to do that. So it was like I had a goal, but I just couldn't get there. And it really, just affected me in a big way, because I guess for many of your listeners, perhaps they're can-doers and they like to get stuff done and they're kind of can-do people, but all of a sudden there was something that was just beyond my ability to do. I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the information, and kept running into these little potholes. And it's like these little ditches, if we can't get through them, they become like the graveyard of our dreams. And it was a bit like that for me, where I just felt like I can't get to the end goal. And, it's really a case of being able to find a way to work through those. And for me, a lot of it was around just connecting with the right people who did have the right information, who did have the right knowledge. And once I made those connections, then I found that things started to move forward again for me. So for me, it was a real lesson in the impact that not being able to move towards our goals can have, and also the incredible power of connecting with the right people in our life to enable us and equip us. And I guess that's a big part of what you do in your show here every day, to help people with the skills and the tools to move forward.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's wonderful. And yet, writing a book, I've helped other people with their books, but when I finally wrote mine, it was a lot of work. By the time you're done, you get a
Yeah.
PhD in how to write a book. And you get to make
That's
so
right.
many mistakes. Like I hired people that weren't aligned, and then I, got rid of them and get some
Yeah,
new people
yeah.
and different advice, and you get people that might be coaching you on how to write a book, and then they don't know, or they're take your money and then they don't give you the information and they want more money.
You're telling me my story.
Yes, exactly. And you're like, well, wait, I just want to get this information out to help people. Why is
Yeah,
this so difficult? And you Google it, you
yeah,
get so many
exactly.
different ideas and fees that you have to pay. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way for sure. And that was the
Mm,
learning curve. And it
mm,
comes to a point in anything that we do when you start, it's not easy because we don't know. And after a while, you could, write 20 books
exactly.
now. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a great
that
point.
makes a difference. And I'd love to hear the title again of your book and a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the title of the book is called Leadership Upgrade: 10 Keys to Become the Leader Your World is Waiting For, Home, Community, and Work. So it's a long
Mm,
subtitle, but it's really about exactly as you explained there, just providing a foundation for people to build their life and their leadership on. And it's
mhm,
10 keys that I've seen throughout the journey that I keep coming back to as like a bit of a plumb line for people to measure where they're at. So, in the olden days, they'd have a plumb line, which when they're building a house, they'd drop a string from a height and they'd put a weight on the bottom and they would know that was straight. That was their plumb line
mhm,
that they
mhm.
built the structure of. So for me, I think the book is a bit of a combination of all of my years of involvement in my own personal development and working with other people. And these are the kind of key foundations where I can see that if we have these things in place and we start to build these into our life, then our chances of being successful, however you want to measure that, in our family and in our workplace and in our community,
Mm.
becomes really improved.
Yes, and it seems to be. I work with a lot of businesses, and I notice that what happens many times is I'm consulting on business, and then I end up
Mm.
consulting the husband and wife because
Right.
whatever the
Yeah.
business has taken all the time, and then the
Yeah.
family life is suffering. Oh,
Wow.
and it tends to be different areas react to it if we give our business so much, which we need to do when we're starting up, definitely. But
Mm.
it becomes a difficult thing. And then once you get in line with your business and you're like, okay, this is great. Now I'm earning more money and I have more time off. And you go home and you're like, oh, I haven't been here for like a couple years, really.
Yeah.
And so there's getting that alignment, that, like you said, the plumb line,
Yeah.
getting really aligned with business and home life. And there, I mean, why do
Yeah.
we work? We want to help other people, but we want to also have a beautiful life.
Oh,
That's
look,
why
yeah,
we want to provide for our families and ourselves.
exactly. Yeah, look, it's a fantastic point. And I think the trap that I've seen with a lot of people is they get caught building their business or building, looking at how they can empower other people or grow other people or that sort of thing. But, we only have one life. We only have one heart. There's only one of us. And wherever we go into the home or the community or the workplace, what we're carrying inside us is what's going to affect that environment. So a lot
Mm.
of times, we can really focus on delegating tasks to people, and as leaders, we can empower other people and all that sort of thing. But we can only really ever lead others to the degree that we're leading ourselves in our own life, and our own personal leadership of our own life is really the starting point of what happens with our leadership for other people. So exactly
Mm.
as you say, I think that's a great point you make, that, the degree that we are able to build a healthy life in our own individual circumstance, and that's in our private and our personal life, that's
Mhm.
really the foundation that we build on to move into the public life. So I think that's a really good point you've made.
Yes. Now I'm wondering, what is your favorite chapter in the book?
Oh, That's like, which is your favorite kid? You know, they're all
Yeah.
your favorites, depending on how they're behaving.
Right, right.
Um,
Yes.
Look, I think one of the things, just as we were talking at the start there, and you were mentioning about, there's things going wrong on your book writing journey, and
Yeah.
one of the great discoveries I made when I was writing the book was on the chapter about persistence.
Mm.
And as I started to dig into these people that I'd always admired, and figures in history and that sort of thing, it was just amazing to me how many times they had failed and how many times things had gone wrong in their life and how much pain they went through, that you never knew about, you never see, and it's never promoted, but it's definitely a total part of their story.
Right.
And, even someone like Walt Disney, who I've mentioned in the book, the incredible amount of really hard, difficult times that he went through, and he had characters stolen from him, and he failed, and he was mocked by the entertainment industry for years, and then all of a sudden he just kept persevering, and he broke through, and now Disney is what it is. But
Yes.
there's so many times I was reading his story, I thought, gosh, he could give up, and no one would ever question that. But I think one of his quotes is, we just don't look backwards, we just keep looking forwards. And,
That's so true.
such a powerful thing. And as you say, all these things are going wrong, and we think, gosh, what's wrong? But actually, that can be just part of the journey.
Right, right. Definitely is part of the journey. I remember, I share about this a lot. When I was 5 years old, I was staying with my grandparents. My mother was not feeling well and had some health issues. And so my grandmother would have tea with all these older ladies that were probably in their 70s and 80s back then. And my grandmother was born in 1908. So those were her, her friends. And I was fortunate enough to be in this room. It was in La Cañada, California, so a suburb of Los Angeles. So there's people from all over the world. And these ladies, they had to run the business because either the husband passed away or they were left alone or whatever happened. They came from all over. They went through things like the Spanish flu, the Depression, the different situations. One of them came from losing her family to the concentration camps. So they were a very diverse group, and they had these beautiful, incredible stories. They were stoic women, very feminine still. They didn't lose their feminine, but they ran the businesses at a time when that, even back then, it wasn't really heard of. And they just had these stories. And I thought, at 5 years old, I thought, oh, I'm going to have a grand adventure too. And that's just part of life. You get to have stories about what goes on. And we're all going to go through, now globally, we're going through this pandemic. So we have some serious stories that people will watch in the future. So that's it. So it's something that has helped me a lot.
Well, that is so powerful.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's almost something this generation can miss. Like there's a bit of a disconnect, I think. You look at someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who started something at uni, and now he's, as successful as he is. But that's not the typical story, for 99% of the people. And this whole journey that we go on, I think if we have the mindset that it's going to be easy, or that it's just going to be a one step, and we just follow what the program says and we get there, that's just not reality. And so I think the way we interpret failure, or interpret when things don't go to plan, is really important, because we can see that as, oh gosh, something's wrong, I've done something wrong, this means I shouldn't proceed down this path, and we can stop. Whereas actually, if we have the mindset that you're talking about, that, wow, I'm just going to have this wild adventure, and things are going to go up and down and all around, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. It's almost like we're pre-built to continue our journey when those things happen to us.
Yes, yes. Now, I'd love to hear how writing a book came to you. What brought you to decide to write this book?
Yeah, look, it was really, I wrote the book over about 12 years, to be honest. And initially it was just about taking notes and observations of, things that I observed and I watched in other people and I experienced in my own life, and, run into a brick wall and go, oh, make a note, that didn't work, don't do that again.
Right.
And then try and, it was about pulling all these notes and serviette papers and sticky notes together and putting into a book, because for me, I just found that these were things that were real sort of truths to people, that if they applied them and could build them into their life, and as I started to build them into my life, I could see the difference that they were making. And it's really a process of building and becoming. So, if you ask me, are you a natural leader? I would say I don't have a natural leadership bone in my body, to be honest, but it's about that power to become. We can become something if we chart a course, if we stick at it, if we work on it, if we have our daily disciplines, if we move into it over time. And so for me, the why of writing the book was really about empowering people to go on this journey and to take this pressure off that, hey, you've got to come ready-made. You've got to come prepackaged and you're A+ and you're good to go, because it's just not reality. We all have to go on a journey and a process of growth, and it's really about embarking on that journey that is our victory. It's not just that we've achieved something straight away.
Very true. Now, when you were a young kid growing up, did you think, what was your goal for, I'm going to grow up and be a blah, blah, blah? What did you want to be or do, or,
I don't know that I ever had a specific goal growing up. I think I always had a bit of a passion to live outside the borders, maybe, and live outside the normal and sort of create my own kind of lifestyle in a way. And it's really interesting because when I look back and I think this is kind of the life I wanted to live, I think along the way, as you encounter barriers and obstacles to that, I distinctly remember thinking, oh gosh, I guess that's not possible. Because this is where I wanted to get to, but there's things in the way, like I'm in the way. My fears and my anxieties and my insecurities and my limitations and skills and all this sort of stuff, then I obviously can't get to that destination because I'm just not made for that. So again, I think it's a bit of a realization that, hey, the dream that we have in our heart of where we want to get to, or the life we want to lead, it's possible, but we are very much part of the process of getting there. It doesn't come to us on a silver platter, and it doesn't just happen because we want it to. We've got to get in there and work at it.
It's really interesting for me. What I found is that the purpose in our life purpose, it tends to kind of pull us. And what happens is we're on the wrong path, but we're doing what we were told. My first job was computer programming at 18 years old at JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab. And it was not good for me. Even my body, I had the carpal tunnel, my neck hurt, everything hurt. It wasn't a good fit. I didn't like it. I'm better with people and leadership than being at a desk and math and programming all day. And so many things pushed me out of there. After a few years, I actually quit and went and started my own business, but it was really not a fit. And so things will keep showing up that aren't good, almost like the universe is conspiring for our best direction. But we have to
still,
the
dashboards are flashing.
Yes, and we have to be willing to do the work, and a lot of it is that comfort zone, or what we were told.
How did you transition out of that?
Well, on the weekends, I was selling things at the swap meet, which is like a thrift store, open market. And I was doing that like a side gig, they call it now, to make money. We didn't call it that back then, but that's what it was. And I decided back then. I'm making more money on the weekend than I'm making at this job that I don't
really
like.
In the job that you hated.
Yes. And so I rented at 23, if that's how long it took, I rented a 5,000 square foot store, $5,000 a month, which
Wow.
is a lot. And I
Wow.
started this gift store, and then I ended up buying 4 more, and it was open for 17 plus years. We had over 200 employees go through, and it was very successful. Paid for all the buildings were paid for. And so it did really well because it was the
Incredible.
right pair of shoes. And I was leading a
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
I worked with the government on programs to train at-risk youth at the store. So it had a heart to help people in different ways. So it's one
Yeah,
of those
wow.
things that when it fits, it just, I can work. I love working with people and talking with people and team leading and working
Mm,
with businesses. It just kept showing up. And I
yeah.
did real estate, and I still teach online classes in that field because I was buying the buildings, and people twice my age, 3 times my age were like, I'm running this business. How do I buy the buildings?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I was teaching them. And so that's it. It just keeps showing up. And I
Mm.
just have to
And
say yes.
were your family or anyone thinking, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And
Yes, it was. I remember my grandmother's advice was JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab. Oh my gosh, NASA, this is the best thing on the planet. You need to
yeah,
work there 40 years, get your retirement, and then you can enjoy
yeah,
your
yeah. Stay in the box.
life. She really believed that. Like, but it's not working out. I'm in so much pain, like physical pain for the carpal
Hmm.
tunnel and everything. I didn't do any surgery. I just stopped doing it and I'm fine. So it was really just being guided
Yeah,
to what's a better fit for me. So it's one of those things. We go down that road.
yeah. Such a
Yes.
great point. One of the chapters in the book is having a conviction of purpose. And if we're
Mm,
really convinced that, hey, this is what I should be doing, then we'll prioritize that. And for
right.
you, that means the courage to walk away from the steady 9 to 5 job that you hate, but it's going to give
Hmm.
you a secure paycheck. But it's like when we resonate with what's inside us and we follow that and we build our life out of that. I mean, sometimes we have to do what we have to do to pay the
Right.
bills, and that's reality, and that's okay, and that's all good. Um,
Yes.
but it's about keeping those dreams alive, and you're obviously saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to follow this and I'm going to pursue this, and it's taken you to where it has.
Yes, yes. I remember there was one time where I had properties at this time, and I had so many tenants stop paying rent all at the same time, which is
Right.
happening now again, but it was really bad. And so I thought, oh my gosh, to get extra money and pay everything, all the mortgages, whatever at that time, I'll do Uber driving.
Okay.
And it was, yeah, okay. Even you're like, what? And so I tried it for one night.
But it's
First
what
night
you've
I
got to
go out.
do.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm willing to do the work. What work do I need to do? I'm fine. I just need to, provide for my family and pay the bills and until I
Yep.
get the new tenants. And so I go out, I pick up a sweet little couple. They wanted to stop at this little store on their way home. I stop at the store. I'm legally parked and someone rear ends me.
Oh,
Well,
no.
I'm parked. And I thought, well, if that's not a sign, I haven't even been
That's right.
I'm done. Put it down. No. And apparently that's not the right way to go for me. And it was a good laugh. No, I wasn't hurt. The people were in the store, so they weren't even in the car. And it was a hit and run. And so my insurance covered it. Unfortunately, people saw
Oh,
it.
great.
They didn't catch the people that did it. It was ridiculous. So
Yeah.
that's what the universe conspiring to bring you to the right direction. Oh, they were like, wrong road, honey. No, that's not
That's
you.
right.
So,
And I
yeah,
think
so
it's so
that,
important during those times where, we have to do what we have to do to survive. But it's
yes,
really important that we keep that seed of our dream alive on the inside of us. So that
yeah,
might mean that we're very careful in who we share our dream with, because some people out there are dream crushers. So if we
right.
tell them, the first thing they're going to tell us is why we can't do it, and every time they see us, they're going to remind us why we can't do it and that we haven't done it. And but I know even during the course of the last few years, some of the things I've done just to get some extra cash to pay for extra bills for the book and some of that sort of things, painting, cleaning, whatever, just to get the job done. And it's keeping that dream alive when all the circumstances around us might be saying, you're not going to make it. This isn't you. Too hard, too many obstacles. But it's about just continuing to move through those and keeping that belief alive and revisiting that vision. And you talked about that vision that pulls us. That word inspire is about in spirit. And once we connect with that vision, it pulls us through those obstacles and limitations.
That's so true. And there was a point that you talked about being, and a little bit about who you're being. And that's the first part of my Boots formula in the book is all I'm doing. It's who I'm being. It's how I show up with my family and friends, walking my puppies, cleaning my house, having fun, whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter. I had lost my house to a fire, and my cat and my car all at the same time. And that's why I wrote that book. And I was like, it doesn't matter if I lost everything, for a time. And I said, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to put all this stuff that I've learned, personal development, we're going to put it to the test right now. And it works. It really, really works. And I was like, because that's all I had to go on was that training. And so it really does make a difference. And that mantra stuck with me when it was a lot of work that I didn't love doing, but nobody else was going to help. I had to do whatever I had to do. And that's sometimes really important, to be humble and willing to do the work. And that shows through. People can feel that. They can feel your authenticity, your if you show up and your work, like I had this rule for the employees, you don't get to come to work. You stay home if you don't want to be here, because the people walking through the door, they will feel it, and I will lose sales and I'd rather just be alone than have somebody
leave your bad attitude at home.
No, you want to go to a concert, go to the concert, please have fun, and then come back when you want to be 100% present. That goes to like your book, talking about different areas of life, not just business, and being present is so important. At home, to be present with your children, with your partner, your spouse, with your loved ones, your parents. Maybe you have elderly parents, you want to be present. And even with your clients and your employees, if you're a team leader or own the company, is that presence. So when we're conflicted and we're having trouble at home, maybe you're having a divorce or a fight, guess what happens to work? It shows up. Because your mind, you're at work, but you're not present. You're thinking about all these terrible things that happen at home, or vice versa. So in your book, how do you get into that balance, or that way of living your best life in all these different areas that we live in?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And one of the things I talk about is our sense of identity. And one of the traps we can make is we draw our sense of identity from external things. So how much money have I got in the bank? What sort of house do I live in? How are people responding to my Facebook posts? These are all external things that ultimately they're very temporary. And if we rely on them to draw our identity of who we are, we're always going to be on this up and down roller coaster, because those things can change, and ultimately they don't affect our identity of who we believe we are on the inside. Excuse me. So I think one of the things that is really crucial that I talk about is drawing your identity from the principles and the values that are internal to you, and finding a source to build your identity that's a permanent source. It's not based on someone's opinion or today's current trends, because it's going to change. And if that changes, our sense of who we are changes. So, one of the things I spoke about in the book was some research that was done onto people that were smokers. And they found that when people went through a quit campaign, to stop smoking, The ones that answered the question, I'm no longer a smoker, I don't identify as a smoker after the program,
Right.
they stayed a non-smoker for 95% of the time.
Nice.
But the ones who said, I've been through the program, but I still identify as a smoker, overwhelming majority went back and started smoking again. And that's nothing to say you should or shouldn't smoke, but it's about what we internalize in our identity. That is the determining factor in where we're heading and who we actually become. Right. Because I can be in a gym, but if I don't believe I'm a fit person, I won't keep going to the gym. So it's about the only thing that is real to us is what's real on the inside of us, about who we are, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about others, what we believe about our future and our community. And these are the only things that radiate out from us and impact the environment around us.
That's so true. That I think when we hit a rock bottom in life, when we hit a tough situation and it happened, it is an identity crisis. We identify as, we go to work at this company or that company, then the COVID hits and we're working at home and it's a different, you don't dress up as much. It's not the same. And or if you identify as a mom, and I have a whole chapter on that. Identify as a mom, and then all of a sudden the kids are grown, you did your job right, and they have their own homes now and their own life. You just lost your job. or you get fired, laid off. That's not who you are. But it's a big thing. Or you identify as your so-and-so's husband or wife, and that's your family. And then you get a divorce, and that's a huge identity crisis. And so that's a big thing to remember, that who you are never leaves. It's just these circumstances may change, but you're still who you are. Of course, we're all, just like in business, we're getting better and improving and working on ourselves. And there's always things. And I know Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying. So definitely we need to, do improvement, but then love yourself through the times that aren't so good, or we make those learnings, those mistakes or learnings. I paid the wrong person. Whatever it was, all those lessons in writing the book, that was crazy. And I had the best intentions, and I hope they did too. It just wasn't what I needed. So, no judgment, but it happens a lot in life. And that's the resilience, the grit to be able to get up and say, okay, dust myself off and let's keep going.
Exactly,
I got this.
And I think along with that, it's internal measure as opposed to the external measure of, like, for us, it might be, have you written a book? Yes or no? But there's a whole process of growing and development along that journey that we can measure. You know what, I did chapter 1 this week, and next month I've done chapter 2. And I've learned to break through that fear of not knowing what to write. So once we're on this journey, it's measuring our internal progress as a success, and our internal growth, because ultimately that will determine our external success with the money and that sort of stuff. But if we only ever measure it by that external measure, like it's a really hard road, and it's not an accurate picture of our growth and our development. So I think that's really important as well.
Yes. Yeah. There's going to be seasons in our life that we're called to do other things. I cared for elders for a while. I had children that grew up. I adopted 3 and had some more. And all these things were different seasons in my life that, honor the season you're in. And sometimes it's, I only 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes toward a project or whatever it is. And maybe you're not feeling well. Maybe you're recovering or healing through some physical situation. Well, you got up out of bed and you sat in the sunshine and give yourself credit for what you're doing and what you can do. And whatever your 100% is, that's good enough.
Fantastic.
That's it.
And a good example is my wife is studying at the moment, and she's probably not a natural study person. a bit intimidated by the content and by the, am I good enough to do this? Am I clever enough? And all this sort of thing. I'm probably kind of like, okay, test one, let's do it. Bang, bang, bang. Where's the textbook? Knock it out. Next. But for her, a simple kind of activity is like a Mount Everest. It's like, wow, it's so big in her mind. And there's, the fear and intimidation and anxiety around that. So for her to complete that and submit it, it's like, it's huge. It's like climbing Mount Everest for her. But if we only have a look at the external measure of, have you finished the degree yet or finished the course? Right. It's like, wow, that's a big, hard, heavy weight. But when we can say, you know what, I just took a huge step forward because I overcame this massive obstacle in my mind, in my own thinking, in my own beliefs, and I moved past that. You know what, I'm a world champion today because I submitted that half a page assignment. So I think as you say, we've got to be really encouraging of ourselves to measure that and give ourselves credit for when we have those breakthroughs.
It is so true. And it's something you think, I'll never get past this fear, or maybe it's even more extreme, PTSD, or have panic attacks over something. And I know I got hit by a semi-truck when I was 18 years old driving on the freeway, and
literally,
I was terrified, literally, and I was fine, but I was, I had some injuries, but I was like, no, I want to go back I was back at work within 2 weeks, and they told me I'd be out for 2 years. So I did all the traditional, and then I did non-traditional, like acupuncture and all these things. I was like, I don't want to lose my job. When you're 18, a job is a big deal. And so, and then you're young. So I was lucky to be young, but I was afraid, and I would have panic attacks driving on the freeway for that first maybe 6 months. I was just,
imagine.
It was scary. And so it took me a long time. Slowly I'd go on the freeway and get off at the first stop, and then go on 2 stops. And and it just, so it was little baby steps. And now I drive, and I even took flying lessons. So, so I've gone beyond the car. And so that's something that you think, at the time when I was having the panic attacks, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never drive on the freeway again. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm like done with freeway driving, and anything near a truck, forget it. And so it took time. And it's being patient with yourself. And those little baby steps are huge. That's like this little success. Okay, I am safe. I am, cautious, and this and that. And so, and then all of a sudden it is a safe thing to do, and you feel okay doing it. And then it becomes habit. Like, my wife will probably get a PhD. She'll she starts slow. The next thing she just keeps going. But it's one of those things that could totally happen when you just start with those little steps. And I think it's beautiful that you're supporting your wife through that as well. And I can already see you have a beautiful relationship, and that is so important for those listening in. With right now, you're living together and sometimes working together. If you're on a lockdown or stuck at home together now, it is difficult because we love our partner or spouse, but at the same time, there's like, you go away to work and then you come home and it's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time, a whole day or whatever. And so you don't have that when you're always in proximity. So try to make it fun. Yes.
And I have to fess up. Sometimes I cause a lot of tension at home because I can be like, oh, what are we up to with the study today? Oh, it's this. Oh, just do this. Just do this. And it's like, okay. So for me, I need to understand where the other person is on the journey, and that they're climbing Mount Everest, and I can't just ignore that and say, "Oh, just do it."
Yeah.
Because that's kind of soul destroying for the other person. So, we got to be conscious that everyone's on their own journey, and what's incredibly easy for you, you might be totally all over that thing and just be able to knock it out in half an hour. But for me, it might just feel like it's the biggest hurdle in the world, and I just can't do it. So we can kind of really burden other people if we're not aware of that journey that they're on.
Yes,
which I am very guilty of at times.
I don't like heights, still that much, but I've gotten better at high places, and I still don't like to hike, not because I don't like to go walking or, out in nature. I just don't like anything high in the air where there's something you could fall off and die. And so, and so I consider that fun.
Seems pretty reasonable.
It sounds like torture to me. And I've had wonderful people ask me to go hiking with them. And I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm all good. I don't like snakes. I don't like anything out there. And the height is like the worst for me. Or horseback riding up in the hills. That's even worse, because then I'm not even in control. So that for me would be really tough. And so we all have our comfort zone. So I like, if we're going to go hiking, like on the beach, on a flat surface,
that's right. Let's go hiking somewhere flat.
Or not like crazy, or there's a big trail where I'm not gonna, it's not these little, how they have those little trails where literally if you make the wrong step, you are gone. I don't do that. I'm just not, I'm not that good. I'm not that athletic yet. And I may never be, that's okay. So I have to take really baby steps on that. And that's more, I'm sure it's mine, but then there's this, I kind of like want to live for my kids.
That's right. Do I need to be doing this is a good question.
And I remember going back to school after I started all these businesses. I got a quick degree in programming to get that first job. And then I worked and I ran the businesses and they were really successful. I went back to school and I hadn't been in school for a long time. And so when I did that, it was really interesting because it was scary for me. Because I wasn't a good student. I didn't know how to be a student. And I had to learn. I actually hired a lady for like 2 or 3 weeks to help me with the particular writing. There's writing styles. I want it turned in a specific way. And I'm a good writer, but I didn't know the formula of what they needed. And after that time, after working with her and getting a little help, then I was able to do it on my own. And then I started slowly doing, figuring out what works for me. And then I was able to get help with the other things I needed. Like at a certain math point, I had to go to the math tutor and say, hey, hi, I need your help. It's the last course I need to get my degree. And so I had to do that. And I ended up getting, 3 or 4 degrees after that, really.
Wow,
by that
amazing.
And so it was great. Incredible. But I had to humble myself to go ask for the help. And that goes back to what we first started about on this conversation, is asking for help when you need it is okay. Yeah. There was a guy that was in school with me. He was a great student. He was really smart, and he worked for a big company, a chocolate company. And, and I think it was Nestle, and he was a big wig there. And unfortunately, he didn't get his degree because he didn't want to go get the tutor for that last math class.
Oh, wow.
It's embarrassing. And I'm like, nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to care. And if you
that's right.
It's okay. You learn it and then you know it, and then you can help someone else with it. And I think that was sad, because he was like a really good student with writing. He did like marketing and all these writing related things, and math wasn't his game. That's okay. So, that was his block. And you talk about blocks do you talk about that in your book a bit?
Yeah, and look, that's a fantastic example of, a mental barrier that no one's stopping us except ourselves a lot of the time. So, the pride and the ego and the reputation of I'm not going to get a tutor. That's okay, but you're going to stay stuck there forever if you don't. So it's about this perception that we have to be perfect. We have to know it all. We have to have it all together. We have to come ready-made. It's just not reality. And the sooner we can get our head around that, we are just always a work in progress. And, your example is fantastic, that you weren't a good student. You went and got help, and you learned how to learn. Like
Yes.
that is the power to become something, you know. And now
Mm.
you've got 4 degrees, which is incredible. That is just the ultimate example of becoming something, becoming a student, becoming someone who can learn, becoming someone who moves past those limitations. So, you know, talking the book about our thinking, and it's like in the environment, there's almost like a bit of a natural decay and a natural inhibiting force that's sort of keeping us in the box, keeping
Yes.
us limited and keeping us where we are at the moment. And it's almost like a physical push to get out of that place and to
Mm.
make that decision. I'm going to go and get that tutor, and
Yes.
I'm going to move out of where I am, because it's easy. It's much easier to go, you know what, I'm just going to leave it. It's too hard. I'm going to stay here, and I'll stay comfortable. So, you know,
Yes.
comfort and growth never go together. It's always uncomfortable to grow and to move out of where we are. And so your examples are just spot on, perfect about, hey, this is where I am and this is where I want to get to. And I'm going to empower myself and equip myself and
Mhm.
dedicate myself to moving out of that place. So I think
Yes.
that's just so inspirational. Fantastic.
Now, I would love to hear, we are coming to the end of our talking time, so I'd love to hear, maybe, do you have your book with you to show? That would be great. If not, I'd love to hear. No, you do?
Funnily enough, I do have a copy here, Sheila.
All right, perfect. All right. So Leadership Upgrade by Michael Rowell. Okay, so that's wonderful. Leadership Upgrade. And if you could
That's the
share
book.
with the thank you. And if you could share with the audience where they could buy your book and learn more about all you're doing.
Sure. The best place to go is Amazon.com for you guys. And I can send you the links that take you directly to the book. And it's in ebook and paperback and hardcover there. Or you can visit my website, which is www.empowerednation.com.au. And I can send you the details for your listeners as well.
Love that. All right. Empowered Nation. I love that name too. So thank you again, Michael, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real,
And for
real privilege.
yeah, thank you. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.
If you are just tuning in, this is NBC's Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today I have a couple of announcements. First, I would like to hear from you. That's right. I would love to hear from you. To be honest, I want to know what your breakthrough is, what your reboot is. How are you reinventing and rebooting your life? What shows would you like to hear more of? What information do you need to help you get back on track this year? And to do that, the best way to connect with me is actually through my new YouTube channel, and that is Sheila Mac Show on YouTube. And there you can see past recordings, and you can also see other information and shares that I have. And I would love for you to share in the comments there what you're needing more of and what you're rebooting this year and how we can help you get back on track. You need a guide to show you how we get through a situation like this, to give you resources and to help you get out of the emotional pea soup fog of dealing with a crisis and the resulting fallout. I've been there, and I'm here to help you.